From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Good morning, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast. It's Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. A packed show for all of y'all today. A lot to talk about in the world of cyber security. So buckle up, stay tuned. We've got a lot to talk about this morning. But before we do, hope y'all enjoyed your Cinco de Mayo. Hope you got some good food, got some, enjoyed yourself. Getting back on the ramp up here at the CyberHub Podcast after missing a few days here and there. But a lot to talk about, including we'll be back in Israel next month for Cyber Week. So really excited about that. Some great content coming your way from there as well. If you're interested in partnering with us while we're in Israel, you can reach out to info@cyberhubpodcast.com and get all the information about becoming one of our partners while we are in Israel for Cyber Week next month, which should be absolutely fantastic. And now join me for a coffee cup cheers. Got my double espresso. See that foam? I always talk about the foam, but the foam is everything in an espresso. It's the frothness of making it. It's the excellence in an espresso. Coffee cup cheers, y'all. It also, for the comment here, it also separates espresso from black coffee. Foam. All right, because black coffee is just dark water. There's that. All right, so here in my local state of Georgia, the Coweta County School System experienced a cyber attack on Friday evening that's now impacting 23,000 students across 29 schools in the county. Just as school is getting ready to wrap up and graduations are around the corner, as well as a university in New Mexico, seems to be our education system. Not only can't educate our kids, but can't seem to stop a basic cyber attack as well. Some school system network processes will be hampered, according to a statement from the Coweta School District in the coming days. As school system employees have been advised not to access desktop devices while the matter is still being investigated. School system official Dean Jackson called the attack serious and said it's been reported to the Georgia Emergency Management Authority and Homeland Security. Well, you don't report this to Homeland Security when you report it to the FBI. It just shows you kind of the lack of knowledge that goes on the local municipal level. Not a judgment on them. It's just that gap between an organization to small school districts is unbelievable. And this isn't a small school district, 23,000 students. I mean, in the state of Georgia, that's not a small school district at all. Access to the school system's internal network will be restricted during this period to allow for the ongoing investigation and monitoring. The attacks comes as the county is preparing for final exams and advanced placement testing, which were scheduled to start yesterday. Where I live here in Georgia, school's over in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I mean, this is right around the corner. A very opportune time for these threat actors, nonetheless. And I mean, to be fair to Coweta School District, many other school districts have been through this. Some of them completely paralyzed for months on end. I mean, the Baltimore City Public Schools is still reeling. Multiple incidents, still reeling from it. Western New Mexico University also struggling now for weeks with a cyber attack we didn't even talk about, but now forcing officials to provide alternative services to students and administrators. The school serves nearly more than 3,000 students in Silver City, New Mexico. Said the attack began on April 13th, and it disrupted the university's website along with other services and systems. Officials continue to provide updates on the school Facebook page, but are still using a temporary website with no estimated date. And this is where this gets interesting. Whenever you read these stories, and if you're a cybersecurity practitioner and you go, why is it taking so long? Very simple. I can tell you why in New Mexico it's taken them nearly a month and they can't even get back online. They didn't segment their networks. They didn't have good backups. If you had good network segmentations, you had good backups, you can get back up quickly through your cyber insurance and through recovery efforts. If you don't have that, then you're talking about building stuff from scratch with maybe years old backups. So now you're trying to figure out what you're doing. You're buying time. You're potentially negotiating with the threat actors. You're trying to see whether or not you can, if you paid them the ransom, you can get the stuff back and you can get the data back and you can restore from that data. All of those things do matter. And I believe that I don't have firsthand evidence of what's happening there, but I'm saying based on everything I'm reading, that's going to be the case in my humble opinion. Peru denied that it was hit by a ransom attack, filing the RICITA claims. Peru's government is denying attacks that its federal digital platform was taken over by a ransomware gang. RICITA has been behind many, many different cybersecurity incidents across governments across the globe. This is a very brazen group as they try to take over government domains. And here's where the disconnect happens between cyber criminals, incompetent media, and government. So you can't trust the government as far as you can throw it. And if you have a big government, you can't throw it very far. That tells you just the amount of trust you can, if you can even throw it at all. So the ransomware group also demanding 5 Bitcoins for $472,000. If you hack the entire digital platform of a government, would you only ask for $472,000 or 5 Bitcoins? That don't make no sense. And if you believe that they did that, then there's a bridge in Brooklyn I'd love to sell you. So the Peruvian government did come out and say, look, all they did was they hacked a small part of our tax admin website for a regional capital area of Peoria. And, you know, our networks are segmented, all of this stuff. So, you know, it's really not what it is. That's why they're only asking for $472,000. And not anything more. Because if you hacked an entire government, wouldn't you ask for 10% of GDP? Just saying. Like, if you hacked a government, wouldn't you ask for a more substantial amount of money? I would. Anyone would, because you've got leverage. When you don't have leverage, you ask for little, and then you exaggerate it, and then incompetent media says, oh my God, you've paralyzed the Peruvian government. These hackers must be believed. These criminals must be believed. These cyber threat actors must be, every word they say must be correct. Yet everything everyone else says is incorrect. Just absolute incompetency in reporting sometimes. We'll get to Luna Moth, which is aka known as the Silent Ransom Group. They're ramping up some of their callback phishing campaigns in attacks on legal and financial institutions across our country, according to Eclectic IQ researchers Arda, and I'm going to butcher your name, Boyakoya. The ultimate goal of these attacks is data theft and extortion. So here's what these guys do. They essentially impersonate IT support through either email, fake sites, and phone calls. They rely on social engineering and deceptions. There's no ransom deployment seen in any of these cases. As of March of 2025, Eclectic assessed with high confidence that Lunamoth was likely registered at least 37 domains through GoDaddy to support its callback phishing campaigns. Most of these domains impersonate IT help desk or support portals for major U.S. law firms or financial services firm, and they're using typical typo squatting patterns. In one case, they had a CISO help desk at a CISOhelpdesk.com with a 929 phone number. And again, like, one way to eliminate all of the scams is something very simple the FCC could do. Every phone number registered in the U.S., VoIP or regular, must be attributed to U.S. ID. You eliminate it right then and there. You literally reduce it. It's that simple. The chairman of the FCC, Brandon Carr, if someone knows Brandon, can forward him this little segment. If you reach out to me, I'll do it. Make it so that every phone number issued in the U.S. by any VoIP provider or anyone providing telecom has to be attached to a U.S. ID. It has to be validated to a U.S. ID, or that vendor loses their right to sell phone numbers in the U.S. Watch how fast you solve this problem. Like that. Gone. Ended. And never coming back. Won't happen again. Because the countries that make you do that don't have this issue. They don't have this issue. This is a problem easily solved. Yet our regulators are, again, incompetent at finding real solutions to solve these problems. Some tools abused in these attacks are Synchro, SuperOps, Zoho Assist, Atera, AnyDesk, and Splash Topping, and they're using RMM to remotely log in, and then they locate valuable files. They exfiltrate them to an attacker-controlled infrastructure using SCP or via SFTP or Reclone cloud syncing. After the data is stolen, they contact the victimized organization trying to leak it publicly, unless they pay a ransom. So they're not launching ransomware, they're just doing extortion campaigns. And by the way, I'll put some of these screenshots on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com. You can see them there. The Skype video call and messaging services, the end of an era, is shutting down as Microsoft acquires another company that went to Microsoft to die. We all remember Skype. We all remember Skype 20 years ago. Skype started in 2003. It's a collective of developers. It was later sold to eBay in 2005, which bought it for $2.6 billion. Microsoft then acquired it for $8.5 billion in 2011. And for the last about 14 years, Microsoft has slowly killed Skype to now officially ending its life. No more, an end of an era there. Let's get into some vulnerabilities as well. A supply chain attack targets Linux servers and disk wiping malware hidden in the Golang modules published on GitHub. The campaign detected last month relies on 3 malicious Go modules that included highly obfuscated code for retrieving remote payloads and even executing them. The attack appears to be designed specifically for Linux-based server and developer environments as a destructive payload. Again, when the war between Russia and Ukraine started, and Russia started deploying wiper malware against Ukrainian interests, I said it's only a matter of time before we see that wiper malware translate into our environment. On a panel last week on Thursday with some great folks, I said, y'all look at a battlefield and say, it's not impacting my business today. It will in a few years. So you ought to keep your eye on it. You got to redevelop your playbooks. You got to look at your existing tool set and see what are those vendors doing in order to identify these types of attacks, because Stuxnet, the mother of all malware, started military, and then it was essentially the building board for WannaCry and NotPetya and so many other malware families. So wiper malwares are starting to make their way into organizations, into the public sphere, beyond the military cycle, because once that malware leaks, and Ukraine is an insanely corrupt country. I'm not justifying the war here, right? This isn't a political statement over should we or should we not support Ukraine. Ukraine as a country, as someone who lived there for over a year, I can tell you, and visited there a lot in between, corruption is in the name Ukraine. And so when they do this analysis, someone will steal that malware sample and someone will be selling it to a bunch of cyber criminals that exist in the Ukraine. The JP Morgan Chase 2014 hackers, their entire infrastructure was in Ukraine. Like, all of those things do wind up. So eventually it'll find its way to places like this. So all 3 modules that researchers identified have been removed from the platform, and they were a truthful farm, photo transfer, proto transform, the blank loggia, and Go MCP, and SteelPore TLS proxy. All of these have now been taken down, but if you use them, understand that, and then you need better tools to identify them. CISA on yesterday issuing an alert on the recent Langflow vulnerability being exploited in the wild. The Python-based LLM agnostic AI builder Langflow is customized visual framework that supports the development of multi-agent and retrieval of augmented generation applications. CVE 2025-3248 has a CVSS score of 9.8. It was disclosed in early April. The exploited issue is described as a code injection issue in code validation endpoint. It was resolved in version 1.3.0. A remote unauthenticated attacker can send crafted HTTP requests to execute arbitrary code, according to NIST. On April 9th, Horizon 3 published technical details on the defect and a proof of concept exploit that's now under active attack. CISA added it to its catalog, and SANS even issued a notice in spike in hits to the vulnerable Langflow endpoint fueled by that report. So all in all, you want to make sure you get that addressed. Cybersecurity researchers are now disclosing that the patched vulnerability in Apple's AirPlay protocol, if successfully exploited, meaning if you haven't updated your devices, could enable an attacker to take over a susceptible device supporting the proprietary wireless technology. These have been called airborne by Oligo. These vulnerabilities can be chained by attackers to potentially take control of devices that support AirPlay. One easy way to do this, make sure your AirPlay is only available to contacts. Really simple. It's one simple setting on your phone. Go into your settings. On the top, just hit AirPlay, and then don't make it available to everyone or anyone. And it does just that. Now, this is a zero-click exploit, but if you shut down AirPlay to everyone and you only turn it on when you need it, you eliminate the risk Ori Katz, Avi Lumeski, and Gal Elbaz were all behind the research there for Ogilio. The exploitation of a high-severity vulnerability in the Samsung Magic Info content management system began within days of proof of concept. Exploit code targeting it was made public. According to Arctic Wolf, CVE 2024-73999 has a CVSS score of 8.8. The issue is described as an improper limitation of path name to a restricted directory vulnerability in Samsung's Magic Info 9 server that could be exploited to write arbitrary files with system privileges. And because the CMS doesn't properly sanitize a file name input, failing to validate the file extension and whether the user is authenticated, an unauthenticated attacker could upload a JSP file and execute arbitrary server-side code with system privileges. This was patched in version 21.1050, which was released back in August of 2024. However, some people have not patched it yet. Exploits are still out there. Make sure you get that addressed. On Monday, Google started rolling out fresh security updates for Android phones with fixes for roughly 50 vulnerabilities, including a bug exploited in the wild. It's resolved as part of the update's first part, which arrives on devices as of the 2025-0501 security patch level. The exploited flaw is tracked as CVE 2025-27363 with an 8.1 CVSS score and impacts the free type software development library. The issue is described as an out-of-bounds right in the open source rendering engine versions up to and including 2.13.0 that could lead to arbitrary code execution. The internet giant rolled out patches for the bug roughly 2 months after Facebook parent company Meta warned that it's been exploited as a zero-day, urging organizations to update a free type version 2.13.3. Now that's been updated there on Android. Microsoft warning about some security risks by default configurations in Kubernetes deployments, particularly using out-of-the-box Helm charts, which could expose sensitive data. These Helm charts in most cases don't require any sort of authentication. They're left exploitable with ports open and often use even weak or hard-coded passwords that were trivial to break. This is a report published by security researchers over at Microsoft Defender for Cloud Research, Michael Kaczynski and Yossi Wiseman. The three different Helm charts that puts Kubernetes environments at risk are the Apache Pinot, the Msheri, and the Selenium Grid. All of those are ones you want to definitely lock down. Going back to the Ukraine has detained an alleged FSB agent recruited via TikTok for spying on the military. The 43-year-old woman, not an 18-year-old kid, not a 20-year-old kid, not even a teenager. She's a 43-year-old woman, a local employee of a coal mining company in the Ukrainian Donetsk region, which is one of the hardest hit regions here in the war. Apparently, she was live streaming stuff on TikTok. The FSB noticed it, reached out to her. She kept live streaming stuff, taking pictures of Ukrainian troops and artillery positions, helping Russia hit the Ukrainian. And again, this goes further into the conflict. I'm not going to get into it, but plenty of stuff out there explaining to you why most people in Donetsk feel closer to Russia than they do to Ukraine, and why Western Ukraine is predominantly mostly speak Ukrainian and more are ingrained with the EU, while the eastern part of Ukraine is primarily Russian. They speak Russian, and they primarily recognize themselves as being ethnic Russians. So there's that there. She's obviously now been charged with high treason and could face life in prison with the confiscation of any property or all property she owns in the country. That's it for our show this morning. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern live with all the latest and greatest cyber news. Until then, make sure to subscribe on our website at cyberhubpodcast.com. You get a written version in kind of paragraph short format with a good call to action for some of these things. So if you don't remember, just go subscribe. You get it in your email shortly after the podcast, and you can forward it down to your team, colleagues, or whoever else you want to share it with. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and most importantly, y'all, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.